Happy Friday to you. How's it going? It's January 20th. It's the Sports Algorithm Podcast and Pivot Table Extravaganza here. I'm your host, Ken Braverman. We have a lot of Excel files open. We've got one that produces projections for hockey, the NHL algorithm that you're seeing right now. We've got the NBA algorithm as well. We're going to look at some results from yesterday and talk about today. We also have, for some reason, Bundesliga. We have a Bundesliga soccer file open because I'm going to talk about soccer today. We have a soccer master picks sheet, which is a super complicated connection between the soccer projections file and a bunch of different soccer league files. It's a mess. We're going to talk about it today because I was asked about soccer. And we have, of course, college basketball, where there was a huge day yesterday, and I want to talk about this huge string of almost full string of wins, except for Gonzaga, which apparently lost at home to Loyola at minus 1,500. I want to talk about that as well. So a lot going on here. And we try to do it in podcast form because staring at these Excel files is extremely boring and complicated. But the goal of this video is, and the goal of the video series that I've been putting out forever, for 13 years plus, as we march our way to try to get this channel monetized. We're 174 watch hours short. We're getting close. So that's why we're going to continue to do videos, and we're going to get there. But what I want to talk about is, in the series is, how do we organize this information to get the best information possible so that we at least can make the best decisions based on full sets of data, right? And full injury reports and things as current as possible, because that does matter. And once we get all that information aggregated through all these pivot tables, we can browse through the rendering of the projections and try to find optimal things. And the goal of the video is to come up with the premium picks of the day in all the sports that we follow. So let's first talk about college basketball. I know this is daunting looking at this huge thing here, but what I'm glancing at is wins, and I don't care about the spread as much. You can see we're only 35 and 37 against the spread, and it's tough against the spread, and I don't try to measure this against the spread as much. I've tried to look for winners because I think teams try to win games. And it does look like we did get 26 out of the top 27 games were winners. And that's pretty good. And that Gonzaga game is tough. Now, here's why, when I look at this, I really applaud what the algorithm is doing. So see all those strings of wins up there, right? We end up going 52 and 20 on the day, or winning 72% of our games. Well, the odds makers had lines on these games over here. And the odds makers were determining who they thought were the biggest favorites. Let's sort this list instead of by our margin here, which is we thought the biggest, most distorted matchup of the day was going to be College of Charleston against Monmouth. And they ended up winning by 14 points. And they were minus 4,000, which the odds makers agreed that was an incredibly great, winning pick, that College of Charleston was going to win. And so the line was terrible, right? So that's one where the algorithm and the lines makers basically agreed, because that looks like the worst line on the board. But let's sort this by line, because what I want to show you is the algorithm did 26 out of 27, right? What did the odds makers do? Because the odds makers are going to have Gonzaga higher up here because they were minus 1,500. So let's see what happens. So we're going to ascending by money line. And look at that. See how much worse the odds makers did? If you look at the first 27 games the odds makers did, which brings you down to here, okay, or a little further, actually. They lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, and the algorithm only lost 1 in that subset of order. So you can see that the odds makers just, the algorithm is just smarter. I mean, it's right. Like, doesn't that look a lot better? I just backed it up and showed what the algorithm, represented. So our home teams did what I promised you happened, which is that 90% of the home teams above 10% margin will win. I don't think so, but it's close. You can see if we filter this for margin above 10%, greater than margin, percent margin. If we make this and say those games that are premium games above 10%, they go 14-2, so 88% win, right? I call that kind of pretty close to what I said, actually. There was 2 losses in that Gonzaga game. Of course, nobody would have thought that Gonzaga was going to lose that game at home, and they did. So that's kind of why you didn't go, 15-1 is that Gonzaga game, because Southern Illinois, Edwardsville loses, but everybody else wins, and a lot of these teams covered. So just the algorithm, right? It's good. It's just really good. All right, so let's back up now. Our home teams go 26-8. And there's a lot of winning up top there, as you can see. Some of these lines were 200s, they were bettable. Our away teams went 26-12. And look at this string of home away winners above 17% margin. Now, when I say that home teams above 10% margin win, well, away teams above 20% margin are actually reasonable bets. And I think I've glanced on that before, because a 20% margin is more than the home bump usually allots for. I've always said that the home bump is between 5 and 20%. And so anything above 20%, you can see these were all winners. Fascinating. And they were also all favorites, it looks like. How did our underdogs do on the day? At no bump. At no bump, our underdogs go 7-9, but notice that a lot of these losers down here have really low margins. And you like to bump this thing 5%. So let's see what a 5% home bump does with our underdogs. And that makes them, oh, the bump won't work. Oh, sorry, the bump won't work because I unconnected everything. No, it won't work. Sorry. We can't check the home bump, but we can glance at it. You can see that these losses here, look at these losses. There's 3, 6. You only go 3 and 6 at a margin below 4 or 5%. You see, home teams are they're just tough. They're really, really tough. But these are underdogs. So our away underdogs don't have a great day, and that's kind of understandable. Away dogs that are way down there just are some are going to win, some are going to lose. It's not like the home teams or the away teams that are above 20%. So that was a long-winded explanation of what happened yesterday. There are games today. Let's take a look at them. Friday the 20th. And see if we can form any intelligence. I glanced at it earlier and I did not see anything good. Didn't see any underdogs at all, or 2 underdogs that were road dogs, right? So what it shows is, says that, let's once again separate everything out by home and away, because that's more helpful. The bump will work here, but at no home bump, our home teams are here. And anything above 10% margin, I said, would be these guys. Now, that's actually not that bad when it comes to lines. So there's injuries on Siena, though, at 85%, and they're minus 390. So that would say stay away from the Siena one. But the other ones, Kent State, Fairleigh Dickinson, Wagner, then you start getting into St. Francis, yeah. Then you have St. John's against an injured Villanova. That should be an interesting game. Villanova's not a bad team, but that's a 7% margin. Then you don't want to mess with this Fairfield. You actually might want to take Canisius on the road, because this game's so close and there are injuries on both of these teams. So it could go either way. So it's one of those where Canisius as the underdog bet is probably going to pay better, even though they're on the road. But you could also just stay away from that game because there's bad information. So stay away. But the rest of these, I'm scared of St. John's. Their strength of schedule is a little worse, because I think Villanova is a pretty good team. But let's stick to what I said about above 10% margin. So Kent State, Fairleigh Dickinson, Wagner, and St. Francis. Those 4, not the worst lines I've ever seen. Those 4 on a parlay or a round robin is what the algorithm says that you might lose one of them. So maybe a three-way round robin with 4 teams there or something. That's like what the home teams look for college basketball. The away teams is where you have a couple underdogs down here. VCU at Richmond, but the only one above 20% is this one, and it's a terrible line. So these games are all suspect. They're all suspect. Every single one of them. Virginia Commonwealth, probably the best of all of them, but it's only a 106. So light day on college basketball, and it's just those 4 home teams right here that are the most likely to win and most likely to pay out. right there. All right, so that's college basketball. Now let's go over to hockey. It's a short day for hockey. Yesterday was pretty good. Okay, I guess at 7-6. Some close ones. I mean, like this is a close one. The Buffalo wins that we lose here. Not too bad. But let's just go to the day. I'll get through hockey real quick. I did a quick updating job and I glanced at it. So there's only one major pick you can probably take for hockey, and that's Colorado over Vancouver. Colorado playing better, Vancouver playing worse. This line's only minus 150, and says that everything from the goaltending matchup to the adjusted power of the team are greater, and Colorado wins like 4-2 ish, all the way from 3-2 to 5-1 is the range for that game. The other one's closer, and the favored line for Pittsburgh is not as warranted. Because they're just not playing great. As you can see, they're just choppy. And Ottawa's been playing a little worse, but this is the kind of game that anybody can win this one. It's right. It says 3-2 to 4-2 ish, but that's well within a margin of error, and that's why it's the lower pick. So it seems like Colorado wins more than whoever wins in this game. And you can even consider taking Ottawa an underdog line, but it's not going to win every time. So that's hockey, probably Colorado. Now let's go over to NBA, and then we'll finish with the soccer talk. So NBA's day yesterday was okay. I said take the Sixers was the best option because of their health. They did win, and they did cover also. And then you can see that the injuries in the Nets-Suns game created a weird game where the Suns actually win this game. So it's nice to see stuff in here and know that that it helps you stay away from a pick like that and win this one. And this one was actually lower than them, and that Minnesota wins this game as an underdog. So it's a pretty good day for NBA. Let's talk about Friday's NBA, which is a bigger schedule today. Of the sports, NBA's got almost as many as college basketball today. About half, but more than normal. So what does it say? The answer is not a whole lot of great stuff. There's some underdogs down here, but the injuries are what kind of makes this really, really close. But this one, the Nets over the Jazz in Utah, there's potential here plus 7.5. Even though because the injuries are kind of almost equivalent on both of those teams. Best looking thing was Sacramento over OKC at only minus 155. They're healthy. OKC's hurting, and they're at home, if that matters. And the line's not awful. So it's Sacramento that's probably the best. The rest of these are totally suspect, and then maybe you get some value out of Brooklyn down here. Bad line. Memphis potentially over the Lakers, but that's not a good line. So it's really Sacramento and something with the Nets. And there's potential with the Knicks also, but you'll probably see an extremely close game there. And I don't know, it's worth it. It seems like Brooklyn plus 7.5 is stronger. So it's these two when it comes to NBA to do something with those. Now I want to talk, end this video really on soccer talk. Bundesliga. So I was asked about soccer, and I also know that there are many soccer leagues running concurrently, and I built files for many of them. Basically, all of the sports that are on RotoWire that you could get individual team and team and league stats for, I got them. So when we open up all the days, I did some work on this back in, I can see August, September, and then I revisited this here in October and then January. So I have all these leagues you can see right here. Bundesliga champions, EPL, La Liga, that's Mexican Soccer, Liga MX, Liga 1. This is a mess. The mouse doesn't work right when I'm sharing so many windows. But I'm trying to unfilter. I got to guess where the mouse will hit this filter button because it doesn't linearly use the mouse right. This is funny. Like I'm trying to click this little funnel up here, and instead it's clicking on the team. So I got to guess maybe right there. There. What do we do with this slicer? Oh, we're a mess. Well, you can see what a mess soccer is. So I haven't. God, what do we do here? I can't get it to work. That's funny. All right. Well, I can do one at a time. Well, what this shows is this shows all the results of the projections I had this thing make. And this is how you read this. And it's connected to all the other files that are showing this. You can see that there's a cube in here of data, but it's a connected cube. It's connected to a bunch of other individual files like this one. And I didn't want to start updating soccer every single week for every single sport because I'm not a huge soccer fan. And I also found that the algorithm wasn't awesome. Like it doesn't win that much, but there's certainly for the soccer fan, this is a toy that's worthy of playing with. And I can show you how to update it. Involves going into each one of these individual sport files, and you have to update the team stats right here, the team standings. You have to update the player stats, come on an export right here, and you just paste them right here. This is an export off of RotoWire. You have to matrix names, which takes a lot of time. And then you have to put lineups in, and you copy and paste the lineups from RotoWire and refresh this pivot. And it gives you all the players, and it starts to check for their names. And then you have to add injuries. So there's a bunch of stuff. You don't have to remember everything I did, but that's the process, is updating each one of these for each week, and really going through the lineup sheet and making sure that you have a complete list of players, because it adds up how many players it thinks are in the lineup. And sometimes there are injuries or ways that the lineup sheet puts duplicate names on there. It makes it a really tedious and annoying process. And so I didn't want to get into doing this all the time, but I know there are people that care. Now, I have done videos about how to update a lot of these files, and I can link to them. But if you want a copy of this and you want to start messing with it, you're going to want to ask me questions about how to update it, because it is an evolving program. And it involves adjusting these variables. This is the cool part of this file, adjusting all these different categories, which we're getting stats for, yellow cards, assists and stuff, and testing them against the results. We're getting super complicated here, but this thing is really incredible. And I want to talk about it because it's a really cool application. I built it and I didn't sell very many of them. And then I was just like, well, I don't really care about soccer. I played soccer as a kid. I tore up my knees for years. I'm sure I gave myself mild concussions heading balls. I wore goofy goggles and I played goalie as well. So while I did everything in soccer, I like hockey much better. But there's so much soccer going on. It's also going to go on over the summer. And I know that if there's betting that's involved with it, I want to do it, but not do it. I'm torn. So you can test all these crazy variables and have it retroactively predict scores. Like we found that goals inside the box, of course, is a really big stat that determines how well teams will play and how many goals they will score. And it results in this. I'll go through how to read this. Like I said, I was going to. Gives you the league. Like Bundesliga is going on today. Gives you the league, gives you who the algorithm picked to win, who actually won, what did it predict? It didn't predict a draw. It said this team was going to win 1.6 to 0.76. Guess what? When you round, it would have been 2-1. They won 2-0. Like that's what the algorithm did. And here's what the line was on this game and the money, so like here it got it wrong this game. It said BMG was going to beat MO5. There's teams with numbers in them, and I don't even know what's going on. There's accents in different languages for people's names all over the place. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Welcome to global sports data aggregation. That's why it's really difficult. But FSV Mainz 05 sounds like a catch-up. Was supposed to lose, and they won. So they got their one goal, and they shut out. See how it says M ampersand O Mulkebeck? That's because there's a name that you have to standardize and get rid of that accent. So it's there's an umlaut. We're dealing with umlauts and Mönchengladbach. How can you root for that team in a chant? What do you do? Here we go. Mönchengladbach. Yeah, right? Like, okay, Germans, you and your compound words do not make for team names that roll off the tongue. Well, anyway, that's soccer. So if you want to buy it, contact me, because you're going to have questions and it's going to take some of my time. So I just don't want to sell it for a small amount of money and then have to service what's going on, because I know you're going to have questions. So if you're really interested in doing this and you've got some money to spend on it, you can send that my way, and I will help you out for a limited period of time and respond to questions when I can. But it's a huge, huge deal. And it's like I said, I have all these leagues. I can send you the aggregated folder with all of these leagues connected, and you can start to go to town. But man, like it's really for the high-end soccer fan. Your voice better have an accent. Like, Kenneth, do you have the soccer for us? Like, you better be able to speak fluent Cockney to want to do this, or be from like Australia or something, or maybe like Slovenia. You really, really, really got to love soccer, or Italiano, right? You're gonna really, really want to love soccer to do this. And that's, I don't love it. Although the World Cup was really interesting. Who thought it was going to go terrible in Qatar? It ended up being the best championship game probably ever. All right, so that's the update. Are we wagering on anything today? We're taking the Avalanche. We're taking the Sacramento Kings, really, and I think I'm taking Brooklyn at this line, as much as I love the Jazz. There's a good chance they cover. Really, it should be Brooklyn Nets plus 7.5 on a round robin is what it's supposed to be, given how close that is. So Sacramento, those 3 picks. Is there anything in college basketball? It was those 4: Kent State, Fairleigh Dickinson, Wagner, and St. Francis. That's about all I'm going to mess with, and hopefully all those 4 win. There's I'd say 3 out of every 4 days you're gonna probably get all of those. They're above 10%. At least 2 out of 4 days you're going to get all of those, and hopefully today will be one of those days. Then there are no other sports. Yeah, football's tomorrow, so worry about that. All right, so good luck, everyone. May all your picks be winning, and may all your headers be painless in soccer, and may all your knees recover. It took me years of playing hockey to actually get my knees back to a better shape where I could bend them enough to get into a car. I'm 6'3", and when I was like 12 years old, I played so much soccer and ran myself. Soccer's terrible on your knees. I mean, it's terrible. Humans were not meant to run. I don't think so. So my knees were so bad, couldn't bend them to get into a car. I mean, they were swollen all the time. Was not built for it. And hockey's so much smoother. But there are those of you who like soccer, so I'm not going to not do it. All right. Good luck, everyone. May all your picks be winning.